family, it's such a special night, and welcome to Cochrane Chapel. I'm Gina Finicaro. I'm the Protestant chaplain here at Phillips Academy, and I greet you on behalf of my chaplain colleagues that are up here with me. You'll hear from each of us this evening. If you're still struggling to find a seat, there are seats behind me in these green chairs that are open seating, so you're welcome to come on up. It's the best view of the candlelight ceremony in the building. Welcome to our space. If you have not already figured it out, there are restrooms on the lower level underneath us. So if at some point you need to stand up and use the restroom, you'll want to make your way either down the aisle to the stairs to the restrooms, which are directly below us, or if you go this way, there's an elevator out this side, and you can take that downstairs. I hope that as you found your seats, you found a small pile of candles in one end of your pew. So you want to go ahead and make sure that every person in your aisle has a candle. There should be enough candles for everyone in the chapel to have a candle for when we get to that point. If you need candles, our ushers have extra candles. So you can scoot to the back and grab an extra candle, but you'll want a candle for that point of the evening. One more word about the candle lighting. Hi, friends. We want to get started. Thanks for your attention for just a couple more minutes. When we get to the candle lighting part of the ceremony, I'll remind you that the lit candle stays upright and the unlit candle bends to the lit candle. That's my pro tip for you. And then finally, as we start into the service, this is a bit of a formal evening. It's the formal part of graduation. And so we would ask that you hold your applause, no clapping, until we get to the very end. So if you would hold your applause, which will be very difficult because there's lots of talent that will be up and shared with you this evening. But we thank you for holding your applause. And with that, welcome to Baccalaureate 2023.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jaden Chu.
And I'm Kiana Jean-Francois. We are honored to welcome you all to Baccalaureate tonight to kick off the beginning of the end of our Andover journey.
As we march one step closer to graduation, aka freedom, we want to take a moment to pause and reflect on why tonight we have gathered together in this sacred space. Whether this is your first time in the chapel or a common space in viewing all-school meeting every week, we wanted to start off by sharing our earliest memories of this place as a student and explain why our gathering tonight means something special.
My earliest moments in the chapel freshman year consisted of picking an angel to watch over me, then forgetting my angel, and picking a new one, asking myself, are those real bagpipes being played by people in kilts? Being amazed at the diversity of flags representing the student body, getting lost in the basement trying to find the bathroom, and realizing as I listened to inspiring speakers like Angela Davis and Nikki Giovanni that I was now part of a legacy of changemakers in this space.
My first encounter with the chapel was over a screen through my AirPods, hearing the bagpipe and watching my twin brother Brian present his matriculation speech. Imagining what the organ might look like in real life and wondering who the person was holding the Korean flag as they marched in representing my country, there were more looming questions while I sat in my bed in Seoul, Korea.
As you've heard, Jaden and I have had very different encounters with this space, and our distinct experiences extend all the way out to our daily lives at Andover. You probably couldn't tell due to our insane chemistry, but yes, we had never met each other here until we started writing this speech.
When we began sharing the details of our Andover experiences, we realized that it would take a crazy coincidence or an act of courage to allow each of our paths to meet in the different walks of life everyone takes on this huge campus. Our hope is that you all will feel inspired by the diversity of family and friends in the chapel tonight, as it is a rare gift that we can all have our paths cross in this intimate space for possibly the first and one last time. Think about the beginning to our Andover journey, perhaps being sent away from home for the first time, or your parents helping you settle in while the bristling mist of nervousness sprouted goosebumps on the first day of school. The small coincidences and acts of courage have helped us find our way to this space tonight. We invite you to recall those early memories because they may reveal that the connection we've formed along our Andover journey is much stronger than you may imagine.
Your memories of the past few years may look nothing like those of the person sitting next to you. Some of you may remember the first time, freshman year, when you received a minute-long applause after dropping your silverware in Commons. Some of you may remember the green box meals eaten in the Gelb tent after the virtual chemistry lab lower year, or the dedication of staying up late to finish the History 300 paper upper year, or of course, the gratification of submitting your last essays to Canvas this past week before telling yourself you're going to start packing, as any responsible senior would, but instead texting your prom date about how you should be posing in photos.
Whichever memory from that list resonates with you most, know that we all share these niche yet unique experiences that extend throughout our time here. The small moments that make this space our lasting home and bind us together are what we will be honoring tonight as we hear speeches and watch student performances.
As you shed your last few tears and let out your last laughs with each other this weekend, try to nurture these small connections you've developed at Andover and rely on the lessons that you've learned in these shared spaces. Tonight is about embracing change and recognizing that our time here is up, but it does not mark the end of our connection because the people and the big blue memories from Andover will always guide our future journeys.
Before we bid farewell to Andover's embrace, we welcome you to celebrate the one love we can never replace. Thank you.
Class of 2023, your Andover season now moves through its last evening, from lavish feasting with family and friends into tonight's rich fare of music, song, story, and sacred text. Here amid so many who are beloved to you in this elegant and expansive space, breathe in the peace of this evening and of the slow turn of the universe that you step into in the days to come. Toward these life openings, I offer you reflections of Irish mystic and philosopher John O'Donohue from his writing on beauty. Beauty, O'Donohue writes, awakens, envelops, inspires, and delights us even in these uncertain times of global conflict and crisis. Often beauty, which he writes with a capital B, beauty is playful, like dancing sunlight. It can suddenly emerge and we find ourselves coming alive with a sense of celebration and delight. Something in our soul longs deeply for the graciousness and grandeur, its majesty, its otherness, and its warmth. To participate in beauty, O'Donohue says, is to come into the presence of the holy, all that is wholesome, true, and noble. It encourages us to awaken the divine, the spirit, the heart of hearts within ourselves. To recognize and celebrate beauty is to recognize the ultimate sacredness of all experience. The human soul is hungry for beauty. We seek it everywhere, in landscape, music, art, clothes, furniture, gardening, in companionship, in love, in religion and things of the spirit, and in ourselves. When we experience the beautiful, there's a sense of homecoming. When beauty touches us, we remember who we are. Beauty is not to be regarded as simply the pretty, the pleasing, the mindless, and the easy. We mistake glamour for beauty, but glamour is a highly fickle and commercially driven enterprise. It appears and disappears, has but a single flicker. But in beauty is a light which no frontier can limit or contain. Beauty is not an extra luxury, something belonging in a special elite realm, an accidental experience that we happen to have if we are very lucky. No one is immune to beauty, regardless of background, burdens, or limitations. Each day, each of us, often without our realizing it, is visited by beauty. It is quietly woven throughout each ordinary day. Everywhere there is tenderness, care, and kindness, there is beauty. When we expect and engage the beautiful, a new fluency is set free within us and between us. The heart becomes rekindled and our lives brighten with dignity, with hope, with unexpected courage to new possibilities and to engage against forces of ignorance, darkness, ugliness, and injustice. This courage needs to be awakened in us. The encounter with the beautiful can bring this awakening. The time is now ripe. Beauty is our gentle but urgent call to awaken. With swift, sheer grace, it is like a divine breath that blows the heart open, enlarges our life, calls us beyond ourselves, and encourages us to engage the dream, the sense of the beyond, the elsewhere within us. The beautiful now calls us forth. Tonight, I invite you to rest in, relish, and embrace the beauty of this evening, the beauty of those gathered around you and deep within you, as beauty stirs and prompts that which calls you to the days and years to come.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ananya Madhuri, and I'm a four-year senior from Hong Kong. It is truly an honor to be speaking to all of you tonight. We have made it to our final night on campus, and even though we are almost at the end of our Andover journey, I have been thinking a lot about our beginning. Can you remember your first night on this campus or as an Andover student? I remember my first night as a freshman pretty vividly, starting with my 15-minute preparation for lights out and the rushed call I gave my parents to tell them good night and that I hadn't forgotten them. I remember not being able to sleep, the combination of jet lag and adrenaline just too powerful for my 14-year-old mind. Scared to use my phone after lights out, I decided to head to my desk, pull out a piece of paper, switch on one of my reading lights, and draw a large circle, mapping my freshman year all the way to my senior year. And as I moved along the circle, I noted excitement around certain grade level traditions, hopes to live in specific upperclassmen dorms, and wishes to keep being friends with the 20 people I had a conversation with that day. This slightly deformed circle came to symbolize my journey here as we all moved from dorm to dorm and dorm to home because of the pandemic, and I continued to add little notes along it. It's interesting because if we start anywhere in a circle and follow it around, we end up in a loop coming right back to where we started. Back to the first time we felt true belonging at Andover and subconsciously referred to our dorm as home. Back to the first time we experienced sadness on this campus as we said goodbye to a dear friend or a final farewell to the prefects that made us feel just a little bit lighter while being weighed down with homesickness. Back to our first good and hard times. I share this with you all because I believe that everything at Andover happens in full, nicely outlined circles. From the cluster-based ones we formed in September of 2019, when our matriculation certificates were passed around, to the large, beautiful circle we will form tomorrow morning on the Great Lawn. And importantly, from our first times squished shoulder to shoulder in the chapel, excited but a little bit terrified to be part of our first all-school meeting, to this current moment, the last time we will be sitting in this chapel all together. Going back to my crooked circle, I noticed that there were particular periods of times where I would rethink it more than others, erasing goals that I previously set, and adding question marks besides people's names. Many of these times were ones where I experienced self-doubt. Self-doubt is an environment that is challenging and uncomfortable, and most of all, constantly pushing you to your limits. For many of us, it is the result of not just one, but a series of multiple grueling physics tests. And for others, it is a result of your athletic team's tough loss to their rival. And for some, the result of a not-so-great housing placement where you question the strength of your friendships. And lastly, the result of moments where all you want to do is go home and bask in the warmth of familiarity. But these are what we call in tennis pressure points. Those moments where you're down 30-40 match point, or when the sound malfunctions in the midst of a theater and dance performance. This is what you've been training for and what Andover has prepared us for. The ability to, within these moments, reach out to your coach during a game turnover, to leap into action to fix those technical difficulties. And most importantly, to harness the fear and be courageous. As we've all learned in ways distinct to our journeys at Andover, overcoming self-doubt is key to growth, but we cannot overcome it ourselves. We know the importance of leaning just a little bit harder on the teachers, the mentors, the friends that have shaped the people that we have grown into. Exactly 1 year ago, I told a teacher very close to me that I just didn't know if I could do it. I did not know if I could play championships with long COVID, with a nebulizer in my tennis bag, and breathing through an inhaler in between every single game turnover, all while just trying to scrape by in my finals. Not to mention, I also hadn't seen my mom in a year and a half. So, she shared this quote with me by Kobe Bryant, when he said, "I have self-doubt, I have insecurity, I have fear of failure. I have nights when I show up to the arena and I'm like, my back hurts, my feet hurt, my knees hurt, I don't have it, I just want to chill." We all have self-doubt. You don't deny it, but you also don't capitulate it. You embrace it. So, I hugged my doubts and flaws just a little bit tighter. I relied on my teachers and friends' support when my parents were 7,000 miles away. They reminded me to push a little harder in those real pressure points on the tennis court. They told me to get up and stop wallowing, because sometimes it's that extra push that is all that you need. And most importantly, is to just find meaning in those little joyful moments with others. There are very few things in life that are deemed certain, especially success and failure. The only thing guaranteed on this Andover circle is that it keeps going. Even after we graduate, we will continue to immerse ourselves in environments that challenge us academically, socially, and emotionally, because that is who Andover has taught us to be. And when we are tasked with obstacles of the real world that will make us doubt our ability in who we are, we know that we can always come back to our Andover people. The sibling-like friendships and parent-like relationships that have made this place our home. Our Andover sisters, our Andover brothers, and our Andover family, so that we can all find strength together. So, to the class of 2023, to our families, to our friendships, and to our graduation, which will bring us full circle. Thank you, Andover, for an incredible past 4 years. Have a lovely night, everyone.
I address you, the graduating class of 2023, as the proud father of Ruby, and as someone who is watching you rewrite this school's nearly 250-year-old values. Like you, I grew up here. What I mean by growing up is exemplified by the experience I had in one senior year class, Lou Bernieri's Myth of America. In that class, Lou introduced us to a mind-expanding range of modern authors who collectively redefined what constitutes the American experience from their marginalized perspectives. The reading was a model for the writing that we were asked to do. It was effectively a creative writing class, but one in which our task was to find our voice and use it to tell our stories, not through biography, but by expounding our fears and hopes, by unleashing our spirits. Feeling understood by Lou Bernieri changed what I considered myself to be capable of. 34 years later, when I read Lou's description of your work in his class, Ruby, I realized that you've grown up in the same way. We gather in this space to study in a way that is different from how we study in other spaces. Nearly 2,500 years ago, the ancient Greek philosopher Plato, through the voice of Socrates, the protagonist in his dialogues and teacher in real life, says in the Republic that our souls have three parts. We learn with one, get angry with another, and with some third part, desire. That second part is later termed spirit, from which the cardinal virtue of courage derives. We gather here to meditate on our whole soul. You were accepted here because of your intellectual capacity, the part of the soul with which you learn. Intellect, according to Plato, is analogous to sight. Our intellect seeks out knowledge using reason, language, and memory to secure it. The philosopher aspires to obtain all knowledge, but Socrates acknowledges that they will never do so. In the culminating moments of Socrates' account of the philosopher's intellectual journey, Socrates says in the Republic that the form of the good is the most important thing to learn about, and later, that the form of the good is the last thing to be seen, and it is reached only with difficulty. The Republic is one of 26 dialogues featuring Socrates. It is by far the longest, constituting 1/4 of the dialogues in terms of total words. It is my contention that Plato wrote his corpus of 26 Socratic dialogues in the service of defining this elusive concept of the good. The pairing of knowledge and goodness was made in Andover's founding document. What did it mean then, and what does it mean now? When I sat where you were sitting as a 15-year-old, someone pronounced to us that we were going to be the nation's leaders. I smiled wryly and thought, "Sir, you are surely mistaken." I subsequently reflected that he must have been thinking of the Andover from which George Herbert Walker Bush graduated. Over the subsequent years, and at each reunion, I've never missed one, and I strongly encourage you to adopt that same practice. I watched so many of the Andover students I admired navigate their subsequent education and create careers in which they innovated new solutions to shared problems. I began to think that that speaker might have meant that it was our task to redefine what leadership meant. Non sibi, another of our inscrutable founding principles. Its use in Latin is thought to have always been paired with "but for country." Is that what it meant 250 years ago? How about today? In the dialogues that precede the Republic, Socrates opines on the inscription carved over the entrance to the sanctuary of the Delphic Oracle, "Know thyself." In the dialogue that is generally considered to be the opening one, Socrates describes his calling in life, examining the souls of others. This is his method for knowing himself. The search for oneself is conducted through pairwise discourse on the meaning of terms and truth of opinions over the course of a lifetime. The primary narrative objective of the Republic is to define justice, its nature, and how it operates in the soul. It takes 12 hours to recite the Republic, and I believe that Plato's intent is to depict how each day is the unit of our intellectual work and has the capacity for revelatory advances. On this one consequential day, Socrates partners with his two half-brothers to define this most complicated virtue and define its orienting principle, the good. Along the way, Socrates slips in that community feeling is the greatest good, meaning that the unified and harmonious community will be the one that has the most interests in common. But that is not Plato's definition of the good. I will not tell you what Plato defines the good to be. He hides the answer in plain sight. I believe his intent to be that you should take this method as your model in your own search for the definition of the good. Another theme that runs through so many Platonic dialogues is the sharing of humankind's creations. In one dialogue, it is language. In another, it is knowledge. In yet another, it is community. In the Republic, it is the good. Taken as the consummation of the Socratic dialogues, Plato seems to be urging us to make this our purpose, knowledge of the common good. I think that this may be what non sibi means at Andover. Seek knowledge not for your own interest, but in the service of the common good. In my mid-20s, I decided that cancer was a problem to which a career could be worthily devoted, a problem worth solving. I saw the mounting evidence that cancer arose due to a scrambling of the genetic code that programs each cell to adopt their various roles in the service of the good of our wondrously complex selves. A cancer cell disables those mechanisms and pursues an evolutionary drive toward the good of itself at the expense of the whole. I've spent my career developing medicines that block those molecules that have been co-opted by cancer cells for that purpose. Sounds complicated, right? Consider that many of you, including you, Ruby, will devote your careers to understanding how the Earth and its atmosphere came into being, constitute a buffering system against the cosmic storm, how it ages, how we impact it, and what can be done to reverse that. Sounds complicated, right? Certainly a problem worth solving. The Andover of each generation is redefined. There are aspects that I recognize about your Andover, and there are many that I do not. There's one that strikes me as your most distinguishing feature compared to the Andover of the past. I've seen it at performances of all kinds, and in these past few commencement ceremonies that I've been fortunate to participate in as a trustee. It is, I believe, your superpower. The way that you celebrate one another, the eruptive, ecstatic, and very loud way you celebrate one another. Tomorrow, you will be led into and out of commencement by bagpipes. It is well known that bagpipes were played as the Scottish were going into battle as far back as the 16th century. It is admittedly odd that we incorporate this symbol into our commencement when we invest so much hope in you that you will end war. Like all of our traditions and values, I would suggest that you redefine this one as well. As you reflect on your upbringing here, on the ways in which your intellectual capacity has matured into confident inquiry, on your fears and hopes, on the injustices that you will remediate. Let the bagpipes resound in your memories of this place as the anthem of your spirit and the courage that you will need to solve shared problems. One word of advice. When the last diploma has passed around the circle and you sprint towards its center for your last collective embrace, a thing we did not do 35 years ago, commit to memory, that is to say, imprint on your soul that feeling that exists between you. Call it spirit, perhaps. Call it evidence of the common good, hidden in plain sight. Oh, and a second word of advice. Read Plato.
Saludos, greetings, class of 2023, friends and families. My name is Carmen Muñoz Fernandez, and I'm a faculty member in the World Language Department where I teach Spanish. My students, they know me as Profe Muñoz, and I'm honored to be celebrating with you tonight. When the commencement committee asked me to speak tonight, my first reaction was, oh no, not me. My second thought was, I don't give speeches. I'm a teacher, I give interactive classes. But then I remember the advice I've often given my students, my advisees, and my point people. I always say, get outside of your comfort zone. We learn best when we are challenged, and now it's my turn to walk the talk. But I do so confidently because I have seen you do the same many times. I have learned by your example. When it comes to showing courage, you have instructed me. Tonight, we stand at a crossroad. Each of you is about to choose a direction in your life's journey. I am sure you're having all kinds of feels. Some of you might be nostalgic, some might be sad. And some of you might find yourselves eager and ready to move to the next chapter of your lives. Faculty, we go through our own process when students graduate. We also feel nostalgic, and while we are excited for you, it is hard to see you go. A wonderful aspect of working here at Andover is that we faculty are never just teachers. We're also coaches, counselors, sheriffs, parental figures, and friends. So many roles create so many memories. And you, class of 2023, we will always be remembered, cherished, and missed in countless ways. Tonight, I'm hoping to look back at the past 4 years while sharing some ideas for navigating the road ahead. I'm from Spain, and Spanish is my first language, so I divided my talk into 3 different Spanish phrases that come to mind when I think of the class of 2023. Número uno, eres la caña, which more or less translates to, you are so lit. You're exciting, energetic, and just plain fun. I felt that way on your first day on campus back in 2019. I was walking through Main Street, and I could see the blue key heads at the corner of Chapel Avenue showing their big blue spirit, shouting names and chanting, 23, 23. Many might be intimidated, but here you were, right there with them while arriving in your family cars, cheering back, honking horns, smiling. You instantly became part of our community. And throughout the years, your spirit was evident in the athletic fields, in music, theater, and dance performances, and of course, in the classroom. In every setting, you cheered each other. On every occasion, you encouraged each other. In dorm and club meetings, you shouted out to each other, loudly sometimes. There was one Stands Open show in particular that I will never forget. The performances were outstanding. The music, riveting. So riveting that I might have used Shazam. People started shouting and rooting for their friends at such high decibel level that my ears were ringing, and it felt great. Never stop doing that. Continue to show up to your friends. Continue to be part of something bigger than yourself. And most importantly, continue to keep up that fun spirit. Número dos, eres fuerte y resistente. You are strong and resilient. A lot has happened in the past 4 years. After all, we did go through a global pandemic. Remember evening classes? Fall 2020, Spanish 200 met at 8:35 p.m. Some of you were in that class. Sure, it was cool teaching while wearing slippers, and having a lavender candle by my side was nice. but it was also tough. Those were long days and nights, and they were lonely too. It required a lot of personal commitment to learning, and you know what? You showed up. Each and every day we continued learning, and you pushed through. Spring of 2021, we were finally back in person, but that was tough too, in different ways. You wore your masks, you quarantined in dorms, you took endless COVID tests, and you continue pushing through, finding the good times. Some of you were in my Zumba class, and while maintaining our distance, and we wore masks, we danced, and we laughed, and it felt good to be together, and we drew power from the togetherness despite the challenges. Fall 2021 brought us a sense of normalcy. Masks were finally off the dorms, but we entered recovery mode. Many prefects and proctors had long nights staying up late supporting people while working with house counselors. You know who you are. You all endure so much, showing tremendous strength and resilience time and time again, not just surviving, but thriving. There will be challenging times on the road ahead, moments when you will be overwhelmed, and you might question whether you can do it or not. Know that you can. Know that you already have done it so many times before. Número 3. Adelante. Todo va a salir bien. Move forward. Everything is going to be okay. You're probably asking yourself a lot of questions about your future. You might be wondering how your life will be in the next 4, 6, 10 years. Whatever you do, wherever you go, whoever you're with, you will be okay. A Spanish poet, Antonio Machado, once wrote, "Caminante, son tus huellas el camino y nada más. Caminante, no hay camino, se hace camino al andar," which translates to, "Traveler, your footprints are the only path, nothing else. Traveler, there is no road, you make your own path by walking." Don't worry about the path I'm taking. Dream big and believe that your footprints will pave the way to where you will need to be. This is your road, your world, and you are in charge. Just make sure that when you are in college, you get outside of your comfort zone, just like I did tonight. Take a class that you usually wouldn't take. Talk to somebody you normally wouldn't talk to. Travel to a place you normally wouldn't go. You are spirited, talented, and resilient. You will be all right. But most of all, you will be missed. Thank you, class of 2023.
For the blessings of the past, for that which is complete, those days now known in memory. We give gratitude for all who have shaped us, for families who nurtured our becoming, for communities that framed and honored our cultures, values, and identities, for friends who cheered us on when our educational paths separated us. We are grateful for whose presence challenged us and widened our celebration of humanity. We give thanks for those who've gone before us, whose lives and love and spirit ground our sacred stories and connect us to the deeply good and loving within us and beyond us. And so in response, we are grateful for those spaces and places that provided a sense of belonging, a home, the safety and grounding that allowed our less fearful and more emboldened leaving, for those familiar landscapes, skies, and breezes that were nature's gifts of first wonder to our eyes, our ear, our touch of creation. We give gratitude for those places that opened us to the unknown, to the untraveled destinations in our neighborhoods, in our world that began our global sojourns, the unfamiliar that redefined our understandings of home and haven. And so in response, we give thanks for the time when our days passed simply with the most basic human activities of sleeping, eating, being held. We are grateful for the wide-eyed awakening to play, to color, to song, to speech, to movement, to touch, to the mind's growing in thought, creativity, and intellectual capability. We give gratitude for our maturing in awareness, for our capacity to remember and to acknowledge the marking of time, looking towards birthdays, the first day of school, the end of exams. We are grateful for developing expectation, anticipation, aspiration, and a looked-for promise and future. And so in response,
for the blessings of the future, what will be, what might be, and that which is unknown, we give thanks for the people who will come into our lives, who will shape and change us, challenge and stretch us, comfort and console us, celebrate and honor us. We are grateful, too, for those who will continue on with us, making us laugh, catching our tears, carrying our memories, some whose relationships will transform and deepen, others with whom we will lose touch, whose paths will diverge from ours. And so in response, we give thanks for the new spaces and places of all ventures ahead, not yet familiar and unknown awaiting us, places that will shape and change us, and those places too which we will impact and transform. We are grateful for a spirit of curiosity, respect, and appreciation for finding ways to truly see each place, listen to its winds, explore its fragrances and flavors, and hear the music and speak the tongues of the new lands. And so in response, we give thanks for the ever-flowing stream of time, not knowing how much or how little of it we have ahead of us, time experienced as it passes, sometimes slowly, often swiftly. Following in the teachings of prophets and ancient ones, we are wise to cherish each moment as it arrives. We are grateful for what we will remember, those smallest of ordinary moments and the big and momentous ones, which we will carry with us from our days and years here at Andover. Allow the other moments will slip away. We are thankful for the untold future, all of the time, all of the experiences, unseen gifts for each and all of us to consider. For this night, we rest in thanksgiving for all that has been, for all that is, and for all that will be. And so in response,
we give thanks.
We have come to the candle lighting ceremony. So I'd like to ask Dr. Kinkton to join us on the stage and the ushers to come forward with your candles so that we can distribute the light of the candelabra throughout the chapel. I got my light here. We're almost there. Light is a universal symbol and metaphor. In poetry, art, and literature, and in virtually every culture throughout the world, light connotes knowledge, enlightenment, hope, and joy. Light can also symbolize the human spirit. As we are taught in the biblical book of Proverbs, the human spirit is God's candle. Tonight, we light these candles as a symbol and a reminder that each of you has the capacity to bring light and goodness, hope and compassion into our world. One of my favorite people, Michelle Obama, has written, "One light feeds another. One strong family lends strength to more. One engaged community can ignite those around it. This is the power of the light we carry." Graduates, you have the power to ignite the light and the lives of others, even in, and perhaps especially, in the darkest of times. Please raise your candles. It is only because you shared your light with those around you, because your flame fed the candle of the person next to you, that the chapel is illuminated so brightly and dramatically. I encourage you to carry this image with you as you go forth from this place tomorrow. Let this moment be a reminder that you must share the light of your spirit, the light of your knowledge and goodness, with all those who will come to know you. May you ignite all those around you with the power of your light, and may that power increase justice and goodness in our world. As you shared your flame this evening and lit up this chapel, may you always bring light and be a light. And may you be the change that our world so desperately needs. May you always be blessed, and may you be a blessing. Amen. And please extinguish your candles.
There is so much that I want to bless you with at this moment. At the end of this evening, on the night before your tomorrow, no matter how many words I use or images that I might evoke, it will not be enough, nor should it be. For we stand on the precipice of an ending and a beginning. Ritual is important in these moments. It helps us to slow down, to take note, to see beauty, to imprint image. Tomorrow, again, I will invite you to capture an image for imprinting to memory. For tonight, on this last night of your time as a student on this campus, walk slowly down the aisle and the steps, and then back across the lawn. Pause, take note. Even on this rainy and chilly night, decide you will put down whatever is better left behind. Whatever hurt or grief or unresolved disappointment that you are still carrying from your years here, leave it here in this chapel tonight. This sacred space is big enough to contain it and receive it. Take with you tonight only that which is for your highest good and for the highest good of all. Hold a little tighter to your friends tonight. Everything changes from here, like it always does. In some traditions, rain is an extra blessing. If tomorrow is wet, choose to see it that way. Extra blessings. For tonight, I wish you gentle rest, easy packing, stubborn hope. Circle up as much of the goodness of these next 14 hours as you can. The love, the joy, the pride, the gratitude, the hope, the courage, even the resilience and the forgiveness. You will need to take all of it with you into your tomorrows. Go in peace, in the name of all that is holy and all that is good. Amen.